Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to the showdown between the Dwarves, led by Standard Dwarf Lord, and the High Elves, who are going to be led by Elithanar. And it looks like right out of the gates, he's going to be sniping some of my miners here with his ballista shot. It looks like he did get a 2-for-1 there, so definitely some rough stuff. But regardless, for my army here in Vanguard, I do have a couple groups of miners with blasting charges, which, like I said, I think is very good for kind of delaying the enemy advance, especially if you're going with artillery. In this game, we're going pretty memey with the artillery. We do have a Master Engineer for the buffs, and we actually have 3 Grudge Throwers. We have the Goblobber, and then I think we have 2 standard Grudge Throwers right here. So we're going to be trying to take out the infantry, the White Lions, the Swordmasters of Hoeth, all that kind of stuff before they get too close to my army. And you can look here and see the Master Engineer does have a couple buffs. So firstly, he has Ballistics Calibration. So this is going to give reload. Looks like 30% accuracy when you activate it for a duration of 57 seconds, which is definitely pretty substantial. On top of that, he does have the Prospector Spyglass, so bear with me as I'm just like seeing all these for the first time. I actually haven't used the Master Engineer in a long time, but this is going to give you 18% accuracy perpetually within a 40-meter radius. And he does also have the extra powder, which is going to give you some extra damage. So hoping to get some value out of those. Haven't really tried this yet, so hopefully it works out. Here in Vanguard, we do have the miners, like I said. We're just going to be delaying the opponent's formation, throwing blasting charges at spearmen, and they do bring some AP to the table, so definitely not terrible. On top of that, a mainline formation of Dwarf Warriors, which obviously aren't going to win any beauty contests, but they do have relatively high melee defense and 30 weapon strength. So if we're able to soften up the high elf infantry, we can get some good volleys on the Swordmasters. I'm hoping the Dwarf Warriors, with the support of some Thunders, can potentially finish those guys off. One group of miners here, and in the back we do have 2 groups of the Giant Slayers. So Giant Slayers I think are pretty good against Dragon Princes, Silver Helms, Dragons, and then they're also, okay against high elf infantry. So if you end up facing off against very elite armored infantry, at least these guys have, good enough AP to really put a dent in them. And you can see their armor piercing with 43 overall. Looks like 33 of that is going to be armored piercing, so definitely not terrible. So that's it for my army. For my opponent, it looks like he does have a very heavy infantry army. So he's got a couple groups of the Swordmasters of Hoeth. We're going to be teaming up with the Loremaster of Hoeth here. So he does have Spirit Leech as well as Earthblood. So definitely cool stuff with Elithanar. He has very heavy armor piercing, and I never really thought him, like I said earlier, never really thought about him as a sniper. So Elithanar plus Spirit Leech could potentially nuke down Dwarf Lords very fast. So he does have Swordmasters. It looks like 3 groups, 1 group of White Lions, 2 groups of Spearmen just as chaff. And this is going to be some of his very heavy damage over here. So he does have a couple of groups of the Ilthamar Chariots, which are the standard anti-infantry variant. They're going to be running amok amongst my lines, I'm sure. So anyways, guys, let's get this show on the road. So right now my Grudge Throwers are shooting in, getting some okay damage against the Swordmasters. Haven't noticed too much of a difference as, to their usual performance here. I'm not sure why those ones were shooting at Elithanar. I had them targeting the Swordmasters, I'm pretty sure. But regardless, the next volleys are coming in. Let's see if we can make some contact. And it looks like a swing and a miss. So the accuracy not helping too much on those, although it looks like we do clip the formation just a little bit. Now the initial engagement is underway, so his chariots are going to be circling around the back. The blasting charges are going to be coming into the spearmen, hopefully doing some good damage. And yeah, I could have sworn I was targeting the Swordmasters with all those, but anyways, the blasting charge is making a glorious mess of things. You can see that the spearmen here get melted pretty bad by the blasting charges. They're so damn good against high elves, these miners here in the front. These ones are also going to be throwing their charges, but my opponent does summon the Elithanar clone, and it actually kind of messes up my AI a little bit and screws up my blasting charge volley. So very well played by my opponent there. On that same note, we do get the blasting charges on the far side as they are able to cut into the Swordmasters of Hoeth. It won't do as much damage, but we'll go ahead and take a look. Yeah, it does a little bit of damage. Definitely worthwhile. But regardless, the miners are going to be, I think a couple of them do retreat, but this one's going to end up fighting the spearmen because they're so beat up. And honestly, these miners can probably beat these spearmen since they're so tattered right now. These chariots are hiding in the forest. The Thunders are getting some pretty good overwatch fire here on the 3 Ilthamar chariots. And yeah, the organ guns not organ guns, the Goblobbers continuing. There is a Goblobber, and then there's 2 Grudge Throwers. They're continuing to fire in here. In the meantime, though, I am retreating with my miners. I didn't want to give him like a free exchange on the Swordmasters, and the Thunders are providing some overwatch here, picking off a couple of these Swordmasters, so just trying to delay the engagement, because now that they're going to be caught here, it's going to be an absolute massacre. Swordmasters of Hoeth are just so much more powerful than the standard miners here, but yeah, we're trying our best. Regardless, you can see the Thunders are doing some pretty good work, but Elithanar is an absolute beast. It's just sniping my Dwarf Lord. Now, this is the only fire he's taken the whole game. Elithanar's just been sitting on him, and I don't know if the shield helps against Elithanar. I think it's considered like an artillery bolt, and yeah, you can see that's doing huge damage. But we're getting some pretty good work in against the Swordmasters, and the Dwarf Warriors have engaged. The Goblobber and the Grudge Throwers are providing some good shots here. But yeah, it's a very messy fight. Now the Chariots are going to be coming in. I'm not sure where they went, so the Chariots did come over here. So the Thunders unloading a heavy volley. The Dwarf Warriors did absorb that charge. Some of these Giant Slayers are going to be chopping down these Chariots here. So hopefully we can get them down relatively quickly. I think we're going to be able to shut down this one group, but if these other 2 Chariots want to pull through, you're not going to have a hard time at all. But the Giant Slayer is really doing good. I mean, a ton of damage on that group, and we did get some really good fire from these Thunders here. But now it's time for the Gotham's Reckoning here. So I don't know what I was shooting at. I think I turned to shoot them at some of these Swordmasters up here. But the Chariots do come in, getting a great charge. So very well played to my opponent here, just running through these Thunders, doing a ton of damage. And the Giant Slayers will be hot in pursuit as well as the Dwarf Lord. But now that the Chariots are loose and I don't have Tormentor Sword, it's going to be a little bit tougher. On the far side, he does break through the middle. The Dwarf Warriors did collapse, or the Miners, I think, were fighting these guys. So I have to pull the Giant Slayers in to fight them, which is going to be fine. The Giant Slayers should be okay with their AP, and these Swordmasters are a little bit beat up. So here comes the engagement. The Giant Slayers hopefully able to slay these guys. And, you know, proportionately speaking, they are a little bit taller, granted. And those, like, I say this in, like, every cast I use Giant Slayers, but they just look abnormally large for Dwarves. So they're able to crush down the Swordmasters really effectively, actually, but the Chariots are just running amok. Over here, these other Swordmasters did actually get taken out by the Dwarf Warriors with the support of my artillery back here. And the bounce power is pretty damn even. At this point, you can't really tell if there's any clear advantage for any player here. The Thunders are getting run through by the Chariots, so my opponent had a really rough engagement initially with the Chariots, but on that same note, Elithanar plus his Swordmaster of Hoeth were able to snipe out my Lord really, really effectively. So you can see he's pretty much dead here. I think he has like 281 HP, and he's probably going to die to the Spirit Leech, if not one of Elithanar's next shots. So here comes the Sniper Shot, 360 no-scope. And, well, looks like he's okay. It had the makings of a very dramatic moment here, but I'm sure the next shot, so I'll give you guys a cinematic of that one. I'll do my best, but long reload time there, and here it comes on the Dwarf Lord, and he gets popped so hard by Elithanar, man. That was ruthless. I feel bad just watching that. That was brutal, but, man, Elithanar with a great showcase this game. Definitely cool stuff. We are able to get the Loremaster of Hoeth. It looks like the Giant Slayers are able to chop him down and avenge their Lord for the most part, although they need to go chase these Chariots instead of finishing them off, which is a little bit unfortunate. The Thunders are just basically rotating and shooting at the Ilthamar Chariots, trying to stop them from rampaging. And the frontline engagement's been pretty even. He does have some white line and spears, but the Swordmasters of Hoeth are all pretty beat up. And yeah, it's basically just the Chariots and the white lines, although that is a lot of white lines, and I don't really have too many infantry to fight them with. Giant Slayers, yes, can put a dent in them, and you can see there is going to be an attack order for all my Grudge Throwers to turn and start shooting at these white lines. So they're still getting the buffs from the Master Engineer. You can see the Dawi Firepowers coming in, the Grudge Throwers with the short-range artillery. Definitely getting some good value, but my opponent coming in with the shock damage from the Chariots, and man, just he's been all over the place with those things this game. Just really, really good play, just an absolute menace. And yeah, our Thunders have done a pretty good job, but still, they've netted some pretty good value. 32 kills in that group right there. On the other side, you can see these ones only have 22 kills, but against the Dwarves, and especially, you know, my troop quality here in the back line, it's not bad at all. Giant Slayers here, we got 42 models coming in hot with some Dwarven karate kicks, although I don't know if the Giant Slayers throw the karate kicks like the axe ones do. Well, they have axes technically, but the dual-wielding axes. Our Miners were holding back some Spearmen, and you can see there are a lot of Dwarf forces rallying here, and the balance of power for the first time in the game is shifting in my favor. But if you take a look at the battlefield, even though it's in my favor, all of my resources are in these artillery. So these things have a certain power level, which contributes to the balance of power. And now that my opponent has gotten to them, he has Swordmasters, and I don't have enough troops to defend them, you can see they're going to start getting chopped down, and that certainly is going to take away from my balance a little bit. The Grudge Thrower crews are putting up a fight, and they actually have 28 weapon strength. So against Spearmen, they might be able to get a couple kills. In the back, the Thunders are falling back behind the Giant Slayers, trying to get as much value as I can here, as the Giant Slayers are trying their best to catch the Chariots, but it's been really tough for sure. This other group of Giant Slayers, I'm not sure, they're just kind of hanging out and staring into the sunset, thinking of the days of old, but they're probably going to cut back here and hopefully try and cut off these Chariots. So now you can see that my artillery was compromised, just like I was saying. The bounce power right back to the middle. We have a very even game. Some of these brave Dwarf Warriors are going to be trying to chase the Weeaboo King here, Elithanar, and they're trying their best, but if he just turns in fights, he should be able to take him out. But thankfully, for me, he is out of ammunition, so that could potentially be something very good. The Chariots are sweeping forth, continuing to shut down our artillery here, even though we did have the Ballistics Calibration helping us there for a moment. The Giant Slayer's doing a really good job just taking out some of these Swordmasters, so I definitely think they're pretty good in this matchup. I think that they're able to take down the High Elf Cav, which they usually do need to win the game. And on top of that, they can actually trade somewhat effectively. So I think this is one of the matchups in which it's worth the extra couple hundred gold to get these guys. But now they're a little bit surrounded. They're fighting Spearmen, which is not what you want. The Chariots are coming in as well. They have 75 kills, which is definitely not bad. And we do have the other group of Giant Slayers right here with 22 models. But for the most part, balance of power is pretty catastrophic now, as Elithanar is able to go full anime revenge here and take out this Master Engineer. So you can see he's broken, he's running, and he's certainly not going to come back, which is tough. And Elithanar has pretty good stats in melee. He just doesn't have like big armor piercing, so he can definitely beat a Master Engineer. That's going to be pretty much it. Very well played to my opponent from here. It's basically just clean up on the Giant Slayers. So it was a little bit of an experiment to see if the triple Grudge Throw would work with the buffing of the Master Engineer. A very ambitious strategy, but I really think that was just a ton of wasted money. It really didn't pay its dues. I think just having a couple more, more infantry and a couple more Thunders and maybe even another group of Dragonback Slayers to shut down these, basically you just cut the Groblobber. I mean, this is so much money, Master Engineer plus these. And it really didn't do much. I felt like in other areas of the battle, we did pretty well with the infantry fight with what we had. Giant Slayers and the Thunderers gave some very good overwatch, but ultimately I think that the investment of the artillery was just kind of wasteful. I think having one, like the Goblobber, just sitting on these guys is fine. Master Engineers buffs, I really didn't feel like they made a difference. It wasn't like, wow, they're so accurate. Look at that. I'm going to bring the Master Engineer again. It just didn't really carry its weight, in my opinion. And I think that was one of the big reasons we came up short there at the end. But very well played to my opponent, Strelier123. I definitely really liked his Elithanar play. That gave me a lot of ideas, and I hadn't thought of that before, like using him to snipe Dwarf Lords. Like, he can just sit there and just pop at them all day, and even, you know, a Dwarf Lord who's, I guess, I wonder what the HP pool is. I know Hiking Thorgrim has a little bit more HP, but this one definitely got picked off. It was pretty cool stuff. Swordmaster is definitely good. Heavy armor-piercing infantry are always pretty tough for the dwarves to handle, and of course his chariot play was pretty awesome as well. So very good stuff from him, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing the artillery Master Engineer in action, and that is going to be it for now. So we'll see you with more videos in the next couple days. You guys have an excellent night.